Hi, this is the YouTube channel Cooking with Bruce and Mark, and I'm Mark Scarbrough, and today's episode is a deep dig into fudge brownies. I want to dig into fudge brownies. Who doesn't want to dig into fudge brownies? When I was a kid, all I got were box mixes. This is the real deal. On this episode of our YouTube channel, I want to talk about how to get the fudgiest brownies imaginable. And I have the results in front of me. And these are truly the fudgiest brownies ever. They're like fudge with a little crunchy topping. Now, let me stop and say something about that crunchy topping. We all love the crackle crust on brownies, right? Shirley Corriher, the great Shirley Corriher, was the first to teach me that that top is actually a meringue that is rising up off the dough as it bakes. The only way to get that meringue top is to beat and beat and beat, as you'll see, beat and beat and beat the sugar and eggs to get as much air into them as possible, essentially making a meringue, so that later the batter, it'll rise up and make that great crackly crust on top. That's the way to do it. I'm gonna butter. I have buttered an 8-inch square pan, and I have lined it with parchment and buttered the parchment. Could you use nonstick spray? Of course. But then it wouldn't be a deep dig into brownies, then it would be a cheap dig into brownies. This is the real thing. I buttered my 8-inch square pan, I put the parchment paper in, I buttered it. This is now ready to go for the brownies. I'm going to put this away to explain the next step. Okay, here's what's next. This is the melted chocolate. I'm moving it over because it's still hot. It's right off the stove. What I did here is I took 1 stick plus 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. You got to use unsalted butter. Gotta for this kind of recipe. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Here, yes, it matters. It matters because of the structure of the baked good. So 1 stick plus 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I have taken 9 ounces of chocolate, or 260 grams of chocolate, and I have melted them together in a double boiler. Can you do this trick in a microwave? Yes, with one little niggle. I used real chocolate. I mean real chocolate. I chopped it, I mulled it. I mulled it with a chocolate chopper, and I got it in here. Could you use 90 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips? Of course. If you want to use a microwave, then you have to use semi-sweet chocolate chips, because the only way you're going to do it in a microwave is to do it in 10-second increments at high, stirring after each. And if you use good chocolate, giant chocolate, it will actually burn before it's ready. Okay, so I've taken care of that step, and the reason I've taken care of that step is I want this to cool for about 10 minutes before I go on to what's next. What's next is the step of beating the sugar and the eggs. I have 225 grams of sugar. Don't freak out, my United States friends. That's a cup of granulated white sugar, about 225 grams of granulated white sugar. Please measure it by weight, and you'll be accurate every time. I have 2 large eggs and 1 large egg yolk that have been in this bowl for about 20 minutes, so they're good and room temperature. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to beat this and beat it and beat it and beat it. Let me say 2 things about the beating before I start. 1, you can't overdo this step for the best fudgy brownies with the meringue top. This is getting the air into the eggs and sugar to make that meringue. This is what we're trying to do. Okay, see, thick, super thick. It's thick and stiff in here. It's going to get even worse when I add the chocolate and the butter. So now I'm taking this cooled butter and chocolate, and I'm going to dump it all right in here. And now I'm going to beat it one more time. And this time, it's going to get really thick and stiff, as you'll see. Okay, good enough. Now I've got my eggs, I've got my chocolate, my butter, my sugar, it all together. And you can see how thick this is. Basically, again, I kind of made a meringue. I'm going to stir in a tablespoon, yes, a tablespoon of vanilla extract. You can beat this in. I'm stirring it in just so I can get the remaining stuff off the edge of the bowl. And then I'm going to add my dry ingredients. This is what it is. It's 2/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour, or plain flour as it's called in the UK. That's 140 grams, or 2/3 of a cup. This is mixed with 35 grams or 6 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder. Don't you dare use Swiss Miss cocoa mix. And the most important thing of all, I don't know, a half teaspoon, even up to a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to whisk this together. Do not pick up the mixer at this stage. Dump the dry ingredients in and fold them with the rubber spatula just until combined. What I'm looking for is when it finally becomes a uniform mixture. That's what I'm looking for. There it is. I've basically put it together. I'm going to get my pan, wherever it is, back here. If you see a little bit of dry ingredients, see right down there, you can in fact scrape it together as it's going into the pan. This is so thick. Oh my God. It's so thick and so fudgy that it just won't even spread out. Look at that, batter doesn't even spread out in the pan. I gotta push it to the sides. 350-degree oven. In my oven, exactly 25 minutes. What you're looking for is set to the touch, no jiggle when you tap the pan, and a firm crust. So I'm gonna get it in the oven and I'll show you what happens. Okay, they are out of the oven and I am sweating. Who thought it was a good idea to cook in the middle of the summer and bake? And they've come out of the oven, they've baked, and look at that top. That top is the right kind of crunchy meringue consistency on top of the fudgy brownie. And you'll notice I'm touching this because I've cooled them for about 2 hours. So by this point, it's cool enough that I can just take it out of the pan, lift it out, and I can pull my parchment down, and there it is, all 9 billion calories of it. I told you this was a deep dig into the fudgiest brownies. And watch, when I cut it, I'm gonna get right through that meringue and right into the fudginess. Let me get into a center one. You're gonna really look at this. Look at this. You're gonna honestly really want to serve these in small bites because they are so rich. And if you look, it's just completely this fudgy, unbelievable dense texture with this crunchy meringue top. What could be better? So, if you like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Cooking with Bruce and Mark. We also have a podcast with the both of us, Cooking with Bruce and Mark. You can find us on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can connect with us, and you can find another deep dig into another fabulous thing, but nothing will ever be as fabulous as fudgy brownies, right?